Hello and welcome to the fourth and potentially final episode of this series of porting the Lorem Ipsum plugin for Adobe XD, which was based on UXP and is also available open source over to an add-on for Adobe Express, which will, by the way, also be open source or already is open source. In the previous episode, let me start it another way. My name is Zuri Klaschka. I always forget this in these streams. So yeah, my name is Zuri Klaschka. My pronouns are they, them, or she, her. I'm a developer primarily of plugins for the Creative Cloud, but now apparently also of add-ons for Adobe Express. At least that's the plan. And yeah, I've been within this community since about 2018, a little bit earlier than that even. And yeah, in this series, it's really all about showing the raw experience of developing an add-on for Adobe Express as a developer who's experienced with UXP, which also means that I was able to carry over some code from the old plugin that we are now reusing within the add-on. And yeah, it really shows the raw development journey, which also means that sometimes, it just takes half an hour to figure out something that just doesn't work. That's part of the experience. And of course, I can totally understand it if that isn't exactly something you enjoy watching, me just rambling for 2 hours, not necessarily everyone's taste. But then also we will, after this series is completed, which will probably be after today's episode, have a session that will be much more condensed and will also be much more interactive, where we'll cover the lessons I've learned in this, some tips and tricks I can share. So yeah, just summarizing all of that. Maybe also a blog post from that remains to be seen. But yeah, with that, if you do want to use these sessions, may that be to learn a few tips and tricks, to just see how another developer approaches this kind of thing, or maybe even as a co-working session while working on your add-ons, then of course, welcome to this episode. And yeah, I can see that Kamalakas has joined us again today, so welcome. And yeah, I think let's dive right in. We are almost perfectly on the mark clockwise, just a few more seconds. And then I can get this like perfectly timed, which is really stupid, but you have to enjoy the little things. So yeah, with that, let's take a look at what's in our plans today. I've thought a little bit about what I want to still do today, because as you can see in the previous episode, if I now go back into Adobe Express and I load the add-on from here, we already developed the basic functionality. We have our panel. It works as expected. It inserts placeholder texts. It inserts different placeholder text depending on what you select. It also works with rotated text that doesn't have a specified size, and it tells you that, hey, you have selected point text, and this means that we'll only use 2 words. So with that, the basic interaction within our add-on is already there. And so there are essentially 2 things I want to say here. The original plan for today would have been that we would do some finishing up, but also just submit it to the marketplace. Unfortunately, and I'm really thankful that Adobe is already on this and trying to fix this, but it didn't exactly work out for today's live stream. Unfortunately, there is some weird flag within my Adobe account that it's an education account. And for now, that means that I cannot publish to the marketplace. And so we thought about, do we want to then make this via a secondary account, and I can show it with a secondary account, and then specify in the review notes that, hey, please reject this because I resubmitted with my actual account later. But really, that doesn't make a ton of sense. It's kind of, that it would be very weird to then fill in all the fields with, hey, please reject this. That's not really what I want to do in today's live stream. So today we'll really focus on finishing our add-on, making it ready for publishing, adding a logo for the add-on, which will probably be the same as I used for the Adobe XD plugin. Creating all the different things we need for actually publishing that, so some marketing copy and so on, and making a screenshot that we can then use for the marketplace listing. And then after the problems with my account have been figured out, then we can go ahead and may that be just as a video, maybe a short live stream. That remains to be seen, but yeah, we'll do another small separate bit about publishing it to the marketplace. But yeah, I think really that would be the smallest aspect within all of this. So it doesn't really matter too much for today. So yeah, let's have a look at what we still want to do. One of these things would be that sometimes for longer texts, it can take, like if I now click, it takes a short second to achieve this. And of course, if this text area was any longer than that even, so if I make it bigger, it will probably take even a little bit more time than that. And what I really want to do, it's just a small thing, but still would be that the button becomes some sort of unclickable state in that time, so that I can't start this thing 2 times in parallel, which I don't know if there would be any edge cases where the add-on actually breaks because of that, but still I feel like that would be just a better experience to have some sort of progress indicator there. The other thing I want to do is that I want to store the user preferences set here. So for example, if you now set the selected placeholder text to Cicero, and then we were to refresh our plugin, our add-on, then it's back to Lorem Ipsum. So really what I would like to do would be to store these user preferences, probably using APIs provided by the Express SDK, which will also probably then entail having a sort of loading indicator while this asynchronous state isn't loaded yet in the beginning, and probably also just centralizing our application state using a library. I'll probably use Zustand, which is a German word. So, hey, the correct pronunciation for this library is Zustand. And with that, really we could also be using Redux or any of the other state solutions. I'm personally a big fan of Zustand, so with that we'll just probably end up using that, preparing some marketing assets. And as I said, this point about publishing it to the marketplace might not actually happen today unless somebody at Adobe figures stuff out during this live stream. But hey, that's not a big issue, so we'll get through that. Okay. First things first, some sort of in-progress indication for when we're actually applying this. So I would say let's just have a look at React Spectrum once again and take a look at what sort of options this might already provide for us. So we have our button. We could probably set it to disable during that time, but there also seems to be a pending thing that looks kind of like what we want, right? Just having it be pending. Buttons can indicate progress is taking place. After a 1-second delay, an intermediate spinner will be displayed in place of the button label. You can trigger the behavior is pending prop. Button events are disabled while is pending is true. Okay. I'm not entirely sure if I'm super happy with this taking exactly 1 second. And hey, Ali, I see you also have joined, so welcome to today's episode. So I'm not entirely sure if I'm a big fan of this design decision. I will be honest, because ideally speaking, what I would have wanted to do would have been to do this process indication immediately, and then even if inserting the placeholder text just takes a fraction of a second, have it at least be perceived to take, let's say, 0.4 seconds or so, just because that gives a little bit more of a satisfying user experience. If it's not just but it's dumb, you know, there is just some, it feels a little bit better in terms of how it is perceived, which is kind of one of these gray patterns, I would say, in user experience design, where, of course, usually you would want to have users be like, wow, that add-on is super quick. But at the same time, for some tasks, there can be value to simulating this task to take some time, which is also, for example, the case with, you know, when you're looking for a flight and it's like searching for the cheapest flight for you. And if it came back after a fraction of a second with, hey, this is your flight, then you would be like, is it really? Like, is this really the cheapest option? But if there's like a 10-second loading indicator of searching through a different database for an even better flight, collecting more options for you, you know, some progress indications, then in the end you will come out with a feeling of, oh, they really worked for me, which of course it's ridiculous, but hey, it's about creating an experience. And so with that, I'm not super happy with this option, but I'll take it. So let's have a look. It's an is pending prop, so that shouldn't be too hard to implement, I would imagine. So let's have a look back in our code. We have our main.tsx, where on insert placeholder text is where we actually do all our stuff. So with that, let's just say const is in progress, set is in progress, and make this false. And in the beginning here, let's set is in progress to true. And in the end, after all is said and done, set is in progress false, after even the feedback was shown. And let's just add this is pending based on our is in progress. And hopefully we can, of course, reformat this, because now the line has gotten quite long. I mean, probably, yeah, we don't even get into the state right now where it would matter. But if we now simulate this to take some time, so await new promise, set timeout, and let's actually let this take 3 seconds. And let's actually do that before our feedback is shown. Now let's simulate like having a really bad performance in terms of inserting this. Now we get this sort of loading indicator, and it says placeholder text is inserted. And so also if I now click this 2 times, hopefully it should only happen 1 time. Yes, we only got 1 message. Let me do a quick double click. And yeah, even then, like, it's quick enough that, yeah, it can work. So, let's continue on. And at least I see your message about really liking Cursor for AI coding, and really to me that's cool. For me personally, I currently just stick with GitHub Copilot, and also for me, I don't use these AI features extensively. It's essentially just a better autocomplete for me. So I will very rarely actually use these kinds of chat with the system or something like that. That's a little bit, maybe I'm just old school, but for me that, I really just having a better autocompletion is great. I don't need anything different than that. But yeah, to each their own. And maybe for some, they will also think that's a great option. So yeah, not my personal taste, but as I said, that's just my 2 cents on it. Okay, so well, that already concludes this point, I guess. So we can just put a check mark behind here. And I've forgotten that I don't have this enabled in my current Obsidian. No, I don't. I guess it's a car. So be it. All right. Now, having indicated our progress with a car, I guess it's time for the bigger of the 2 changes in the code, which would be a better state management. So as of right now, we're really using a very plain, so to speak, React implementation where we just have 3 states and it's a controlled input form. So with that, we really just have our value and a change unchanged listener that then sets these states. So with that, it won't be too difficult to extract this into something different. So yeah, let's just take a look here, and Zustand React. It's also been some time since I last used Zustand, so maybe some things have changed. But yeah, for now, let's just npm install Zustand. That's probably a good thing to do either way. So zsh npm install Zustand. Okay, yeah, it installed fine. It has some vulnerabilities. We can deal with that later. And probably not Zustand, but something different. Okay, so now we have to create a store. So let me just copy over the code from their documentation. And let's just within source say, I'll just put it into model. It's not exactly a model, but to me it most closely resembles what I consider to be on the model level, so to speak. So yeah, let's just call this model and preferences.ts. And of course it won't be a bear store, even though bears are wonderful animals, but in this case we'll instead say have one sort of preference here. And in that case, we'll put in some of our values, which will be text, punctuation, and include line breaks. 2 of them will be strings. The last one will be Boolean. So text and punctuation. Type strings, text, and punctuation. And yeah, also what we need here, by the way, would be something like ready, which would be false in the beginning, which then means that all of these states right here don't have completed values, so to speak. And then what we can do, we'd probably need some sort of initialization function, which will be an async function. Yeah, like that, in which we'll then use our SDK again. So let's just copy the runtime thing over here. And let's see where this comes from. It comes from utils. So let's just import it from utils. Sounds good. And then within our runtime, oh no, sorry, we don't need the runtime. The runtime was something different. We actually just need our SDK. So let's just take a look at the documentation. Import add-on SDK, then we have our store. Then we have to wait that the SDK is ready, and then we can get the stuff. Okay, that should be fine. So let's see if we already have this SDK somewhere in here. Not in here. Maybe in utils. Get runtime, sandbox. I don't think so, right? So, yeah. In that case, no, let's not close this yet. In that case, let's just do it as described in the documentation, importing our SDK. Hopefully we have types for this. Yes, perfect. So, first of all, we have to await add-on SDK.ready. And then we can access under instance client storage, const storage equals something like that, client storage. Sure, of course, makes sense. And then let me think, do I actually want to do this in a way where I store them separately? I don't necessarily think so, right? So let me think about for 1 second how, like what will be the best way to do this. I mean, we could probably we could next to the set probably also get a getter in here, right? Something like that. I think that works, right? What was get in that case? Or yeah, okay, something like that I think works. Let me just see again. Get set or set get. Yeah, that works. So with that, we can actually, in this case, just get our preferences. Preferences equals await storage dot. Okay, get doesn't exist. So how is it called? Get item, sure. And of course, we can't be fully sure about its type. So with that, let's say what happens if we don't have something stored in there? Set item, sure, but quickly need documentation on this. SDK references, add-on SDK, instance, client storage. Get item. If no value has been stored for that key, will return undefined. So I assume it resolves with undefined, which is good. So if we don't have preferences, then we will use some quote-unquote arbitrary standard preferences, which will just be the same as here. Our default placeholder text, no punctuation and false. Default placeholder text, which we have to import later, no punctuation and false. Where did we get the default placeholder text from? From over here. Okay. Let's just copy that over as well. Can probably remove it the other place later. Components. Placeholder text bigger. Module was resolved to, but JSX not added. I mean, I don't care. Let's do this the easy way. Sure. And now it can't find the module. Well, all right. Then let's do it the other way around again and go to the default placeholder text. Placeholder texts. I mean, that really now is just a tsconfig problem. So yeah, we can basically ignore that for now and deal with it a little bit later and focus just on implementing this for now. So components, yeah, but JSX not added, sure. So if we don't have any preferences in there, then we set it. I mean, sure, we can also set it in there, but that's not actually what I want. I really want to just do it like that. And of course, add the other options as well, or no, the other options are already in their default configuration. Perfect. Okay, next up, if we do have preferences, and if, do I want to install ZOT now just for validating that? Probably. Yeah, come on, let's, usually I wouldn't install ZOT just for that, but in that case, let's do that. So ZOT is a type validation library, which has very good TypeScript support. So let's just go in here and yeah, npm install ZOT. And then let's import ZOT in here, of course. Import set from ZOT. Something like that. And then let's say, let's define our schema on the module scope. Preferences schema is a set object which should have these sorts of things. Yeah, that looks good. And the text should also be, do I already want to validate this in here? Maybe not. Let's just try it for now with the easy way, and then we can fix and improve this in a second iteration. So let's see. Something like this, but I really want to save parse this because I don't want to deal with like throwing stuff, and that wouldn't be so nice. And then I think we had this sort of storage, or no, it was the, yeah, I remember again. I just want to show a toast if this hasn't worked. So if we have our success, then that's good. Else, do I want that? No, not real. Oh, do I want that? Yeah, probably. But I also want to show a toast. So toast queue, I think it was, dot, yeah, let's do this as a negative thing. Failed to load preferences, which should hopefully never happen, but still. But if we can also clean that code up a little bit. So if we don't have any preferences, we set this and we just return. Then we have our pass preferences. If that is successful, then we set them and we return. Then we can keep out that else branch here, because that would then just be our error case. And we still set it to ready, but once again with the default placeholder text, and we inform the user that something hasn't worked. I mean, of course, that message could be more helpful, but let's stick to the basics for now. And apart from the init function, we also need a quote-unquote better set function. So set let's actually do this like that, but we'll change it up a little bit, because let's say set something like that. That could work, which should then also be asynchronous, which we need to, of course, put in over here within the syntax. So we want a partial offset infer of our preferences schema. That works. And then we also want to await set our preferences based on our preferences. And so then in here we can just say return get.set text, something like that. Set does not exist on type unknown. Okay, so with get we probably need to not in sort but in Zustand. We probably have to explicitly type this, I would imagine, because currently it's unknown. So let's just type script, check out the TypeScript usage section. So we want to put this into an interface. That makes sense. And then just in create, we want to make it like that. Let's just actually make this a little bit easier. So we have set.infer type of our preferences schema. Which then of course means that for now we only really have these sorts of types, which is fine. And then we want to combine this with an interface methods, where we just type some of this stuff. And then we add this here, methods and now, yeah, it expects a comma, that's perfectly fine. But that might now work as expected. We of course still have to see if it works in practice, but yeah. And yeah, Ali, I mean, I could add a TS ignore above the line, but at the same time, yeah, really what I want to do sooner rather than later would be to just look into what is happening here with the TS config. It's presumably this root level TS config, and just enable things here. So let's just see if it would work like that. Let's go back over here, preferences. Yeah, in that case it works. So really, you know, I'm using TypeScript because I want type safety, and so with that, any error, while of course for the short term I could ignore it, that kind of defeats the purpose of TypeScript to me. And of course there is then this weird interaction between Vite as the builder that actually transforms all of this code, which doesn't necessarily fully use the core TypeScript implementation anymore, and on the other hand TypeScript complaining, but still if I were to just ignore this, then yeah, I would lose a lot of that type safety, which I really want to retain. So yeah, ideally whenever I can avoid it, I don't want to just add TS ignores for that. So set punctuation and set include line breaks, set punctuation, something like that, and set include line breaks. So I think that may or may not work. We have to wait and see. But hopefully over in our main TSX, we can now retrieve all of this. So let's say const I mean, really we want all of this, but yeah, ready, text, punctuation, include line breaks, something like that. For now, we need to export it over here if we're not doing so already, which we're not. Export const use preferences. So now we should be able to import this over here. So let's just do that manually. Import use preferences, something like that. Cannot really clear. Yeah, sure, because we still have our traditional state management. And so in here, let's also have set text and these things, set punctuation, and set include line breaks. So really we have all of these, and we also of course need our init function, more on that later. And now it should hopefully, yeah, let's just refresh things and hopefully then. Okay, state management generally speaking still works. Refresh once again. I mean, it doesn't load it yet, which is totally fair because we do not call the init function yet, but I'm at least happy that it's that I can still select stuff. And if I now insert placeholder text, it also uses the correct placeholder text. We have to remove our delay again, by the way. So with that, our basic state management still works. I think the default placeholder text doesn't work correctly yet. So let's see what's going on there. Let's maybe add some console output for that. Console debug. No preferences found, setting defaults. Which in this case means we set it. If we found preferences, we can say preferences loaded successfully, and otherwise failed to load preferences with the error. Yeah, that works. Also, then we can just console debug setting preferences. Let's see what that gives us. So let's just go over here and default levels, excluding verbose, so all levels, please. Or yeah, maybe it will include the debug. I'm not entirely sure anymore. Okay, so it returned an object for the inserting. That's still in our code, sure. Let's refresh things. Load our add-on. And of course, it's not initializing anything, but if I select something now, it says that there is an error, failed to execute post message. Client storage widget could not be cloned. Where has this happened? Okay, yeah, that doesn't give us anything. Let's go back to our console. What is it in here? Still the same thing. Preferences TS72. Set item. Okay, so maybe we have to focus this, so to speak, to the serializable attributes. Let's just see. And if not, then I have to check what's going on more carefully. Let's just JSON stringify this whole thing and JSON parse it once again. It's not pretty, but I just want to test it for now, if that's what it is. So let's set this, clear our console again. Yeah, that works. And if we now include the verbose, it says it's setting the preferences. That's good. So it has now set the preferences, and of course we are not initializing it yet, but that part of it works already, which is good. And then let's look at the other aspect. Yeah, we can still prettify the thing we just did later. Let's look on the other side, which is the init function, which, I mean, we could call in here, but we could also just call it on the module level, because we could just say use preferences dot, and I think there was this option to get state dot init. Just do something like that. And let's see if I now initialize this. Yeah, it's retained our option. If I now set it to pangram, insert our placeholder text, of course we still have console output, but yeah, that's that. If I refresh this and open it again, the setting is still set. Let's test it with another option as well. That looks good. Is it also applying this? Yes, it is. Perfect. And yeah, with that already looks like it's working. Let's see if I now clear our data. Let's see what happens there. In that case, it initializes things. I'm not entirely sure if this is within our add-on or not, but yeah, it says no preferences found, setting defaults. If I refresh it, it shouldn't have set any new preferences because, yeah, still no preferences found because it's on the defaults. And as soon as I then set it to some preferences and refresh it again, now it loads the preferences successfully. Let's also just have a quick look if I now try to put some, I'm not entirely sure where this will be stored, but hopefully we can find it. And then I just want to see if I insert some data that just isn't correct, if that works. Probably won't be session storage, maybe IndexedDB on client storage DB, and that sounds good. Yeah. That seems to be our storage right here. So it's in the IndexedDB and then in the add-on client storage DB. We have two different, we have the quota and we have the storage. Within our storage, we have these things. And so maybe I can just, I don't really want to delete this. Can I somehow adjust this in here? Fresh, delete. I don't really want to do. Truthfully, I've never really worked a lot with the IndexedDB, so yeah, not entirely sure if I can somehow adjust this now. No, I don't want to look this up. Expand recursively, header options, reset columns, refresh. I mean, we could also delete it from here, but that's not what we want. So let's maybe try to see if we can change it through the console. So IndexedDB, something like that. We get a factory. So indexedb.databases we can try, indexedb.databases, which is a function, where which returns a promise, where yeah, we get various databases. And now maybe we can like go over here, and what functions did we have? Open, so let's try open. Open, and probably we have to specify the name, I would imagine. Okay, we get a request, which then has a sort of on success thing, which has a result. Yeah, okay, I'm a little bit too lazy for all of this. So let's just do this in a slightly silly way, because we can just say, hey, instead of doing all of this stuff to test it, we can just say, we can just set it to something different. So let's take our code that we used to set this item. And, well, no, we can even do it in a much funnier way, kind of, because we can just let it break completely by not having this be a string anymore on the punctuation, because then it should be a number in the storage sooner or later. So let's change this. And right, it still wasn't a number, right? Because, well, I mean, I've set it to none, so let's refresh it. Yeah, it's still not, which is fair. Because it was just our type validation. So let's actually do this, which in this case we actually correctly get a TypeScript error, but let's just have it like this, see what it does. Yeah, now we have punctuation 3. And so with that, if I now were to refresh our add-on, hopefully it should say that, yeah, failed to load preferences with a sort error because we expected a string and received a number. And so with that, it loaded the default settings again. We also got failed to load preferences, which is fair. And if I now, right, let's change that back and essentially fix our add-on. We stored our preferences again. And now if we refresh it again, yeah, it works again. So with that, we now also tested this branch of the code where the preferences didn't have the correct format, which is good. So yeah, I think that's pretty much that. Let's see, did I forget anything? Save pass. Ah, right, we still have to use our ready state, of course, because otherwise weird things can start to happen if this takes a while to initialize. So let's just simulate that by going into init and have init take an extraordinary amount of time. So let's just say 10 seconds. And now you can see that it is in an empty state with the placeholder text, and in about 10, like now 5 seconds or so, yeah, now it switches over. And so, of course, in that case, we want to show some sort of loading indicator instead, and not just have the user have a very weird experience. So I think there is this progress circle, which we can use, which would also have an intermediate state. Yeah, exactly. So that's something we really want to show if we are still not in a ready state. So yeah, let's do that. I may or may not extract that provider over to the index React thing, because then we have it a little bit easier here. Yeah, let's actually do that now. Let me copy that over. Index React, something like that. And of course, close these again. We have to import them. And also the Express theme, which I think was also in here, or was it not? Let's see. Theme as Express theme from, right, it was a separate package. That's fine. And let's remove it from over here. So the view and the provider. Let's see if stuff still looks. No root provider found. Please make sure your app is wrapped within a provider. Isn't it though? Let's see here. Probably, maybe we have to use this from within a React component, right? So let's see if I refresh this, if it's still the case, but if so, I mean, it seems to work fine, right? Let's see if it just was like an intermediate. Yeah, okay, it still works perfect. And it still has our problem, of course, which is fine. And in 5 seconds, it should be back. Perfect. So that now means that over in here, we are now only really returning our actual UI. And that, of course, means that we can now return something different if we aren't ready yet. So if we aren't ready, then please return. For now, let's just use the progress circle is intermediate. And I think we will have to position it in a second, but let's do that one step at a time. Refresh. Okay, so it's working, at least in theory. There are some things we have to adjust, but yeah, it's at least working somewhat decently already. I think we should make it a little bit larger so that it hopefully matches the progress indicator we saw while our add-on was loading on the Express side of things. So let's try that. Yeah, it's the same size, it's just jumping position now. So with that, if we can get it into the same position, then I think we will be good. So let's see, maybe we can just do this with a flex element. We have to see. Justify content, center, line items, center, height, not necessarily viewport. Let's see if we can just use 100% here. That would, I would like that better, but we cannot. So let's try it with 100 VH and see if it jumps around. yeah, I mean, we have a quick break between the two progress indicators, but that is to be expected. There's nothing we can really do about that. But yeah, if I now go in here again, yeah, that works. And of course, this loading indicator will probably not stay there for long, so that's totally fine. Let's go back to the documentation and see what we should maybe add into that as well. So label for accessibility area label equals loading preferences. And they used a hyphen there, so we will do that as well. So, and Tiffany, I can see your question in chat, and I mean, I agree that it would be cool to have something similar, a similar series for converting quote unquote JSX over to UXP. Two comments about that. First of all, it would have to be someone different, just because I am experienced with UXP, but I don't have anything in JSX, and I think this kind of series really only makes sense if you have a developer experienced in the old platform, so to speak, hosting this. But I mean, I generally agree that this would be very, very cool. On the other hand, similar to what we have here, I don't think it necessarily can be a full sort of tutorial about converting. Similar to how this isn't really a tutorial, it's me developing this, and hopefully you can pick up some tips and tricks around it. You know, there are just so many cases on how, like, different variables, every plugin, add-on, whatever, will be different. And so with that, I don't think a tutorial is necessarily feasible, but I would also like to see a series essentially similar to this one. So yeah, and hey, Carrie, great to see you here. And yeah, I mean, not everything is going well with live coding, but you know, it is what it is. And truthfully, I really like that also being part of the series, because, you know, usually you just get very well prepared live coding sessions on YouTube. And so with that, I always feel like this would be thankfully, I'm beyond that stage, but I feel like this would be very discouraging to anyone just starting out with developing and being like, why can all of these people just figure it out immediately? And for me, it takes hours. And so for that reason, I really appreciate having these moments in this series as well, where things don't work immediately, just to essentially give people an idea that, just like for them, for you and me, it's also still normal that just, you know, development takes time and takes a little bit of frustration sometimes as well. So yeah, I think it's good to give a realistic image about that. But yeah, let's see if things are still working. Of course, we have to take out our artificial delays again. So let's go in here, preferences. Let's remove our artificial delay for that. And also over in our main TSX, let's remove our artificial delay for applying our placeholder text. And so with that, fingers crossed, this might be our actual version. Let's see. Okay, yeah, that works. So now we have our options. We can select also probably multiple text nodes. And let's include my line breaks, insert placeholder text. It does so for both of them. This, of course, takes time, which is also why we now saw this intermediate state. If I now just do it with one, then it works perfectly. If I now do it with rotated point text, we still get our information. We can close this, which does trigger an error in the browser console, but this is really up to React Spectrum to fix, so nothing I can really do about that. So yeah, that I think pretty much covers it. Let's see, have I forgotten anything? I don't think so. Okay, so I guess it's time, with around 1 hour remaining in the stream, to look into preparing some marketing assets that we'll need if we want to actually publish this for the Adobe Marketplace. But before that, I can feel my voice straining a little bit, and I'm sure some of you are also very hopeful that today we'll get some cat cam content. That's what I cat cam content for a short break. So I'll see you again in about 3 to 4 minutes. Until then, yeah, please feel free to say hello to Lola, who I'm happy to be able to share home with. And we're back. I mean, I'm really sorry, because I feel like, I'm taking away quality content in terms of getting back to actually developing an add-on. But then again, that's what this series is about. So I can't exactly just do 2 hours of CAD-CAM content. I'm sorry. But yeah. With that, I think it's time to get back to looking into what we still need to do to publish this add-on over to the Adobe Marketplace or the add-on Marketplace. And for those of you that have joined in the meantime, unfortunately, different from what I originally planned to do today, we won't be able to go through the process of actually submitting the plugin to the marketplace. The reason for that is that there's currently some weird stuff going on with my Adobe account, which also means that, different from you, I can't see an add-ons tab on the homepage for Adobe Express, which is where you would usually going about publishing an add-on. So with that, unfortunately, that means that we won't be able to go through this practically today. I will do this later, so also let me just share my screen again just to show you what I mean. So over here in the Adobe Express homepage, when you're logged in, most of you should be able to see an add-ons tab. I do not. And Adobe is on this. Unfortunately, we haven't been able to resolve this in time for today's episode, which is unfortunate, but it's something we can still work around. No issues there. However, that means that we will only be able to work off of the documentation right now in terms of what we need. We can look in there. It says, hey, you need a screenshot, so we can prepare a screenshot. That's something that I want to do still today and integrate these sorts of things into our manifest file when needed. Just make everything ready that at the end of the episode, really all that would be left to do would be to publish, or not publish, but at least submit a finalized package within Adobe Express. And that part of it can then, once this whole thing with my account is resolved, just be a separate mini episode, maybe just as a video, maybe as a live stream. That remains to be seen, where we can then look into publishing the add-on. But yeah, without any further ado, let's take a look at the documentation and what we need for that. I'll put the camera over to the left side for that so that you can also see the main content. And I'm just in the Adobe Express add-on docs under guides. I just want to distribute. And so, I will do now just what I would do every time, like for every add-on and so on, which is really just to look through these things, and some of them might not apply. I've already seen that there are some guidelines around AI-generated content, which we just don't need. But, just go through the relevant things and double check if everything that's in there is actually something we did in our add-on. And so, this is, I'm sorry, but this is just marketing content, so to speak. Hey, you can publish and share to our mutual customers, which, perfectly fine. That's the kind of text you need to put in there, but there's no technical relevance to this text for us. So our review process. Criteria: branding, performance, accessibility, harmful or unacceptable content, user experience, transparency, presence of bugs and harmful code, compatibility with operating systems, browsers, devices, and other add-ons. Sounds good. Aim to review under 10 business days. Wonderful. Perfect. So let's take a look at our submission checklist to make sure that all of this goes smoothly, please follow this list. Will do. Make sure you've included all required files in your add-on submission as per creating a public listing documentation, which we'll get to in a second. Files, assets, release notes, testing information. Not something we can do right now, but something we can be prepared for. So essentially what we will do then is in here, I think there's even a pre-built script just to build everything. We would probably run npm run build and then npm run zip once everything is finished in our code. And then dev main, yeah, that looks about right. Then just run zip, and with that, I think we would get the sort of package we can upload. So this would be files. Then we need some assets. We'll get into that later. Release notes. For now, it's quite easy. It will just say initial release. And testing information will also be quite easy. Add some text notes. Apply the text. And yes, Carrie, I hear you. That would be wonderful if we could just stay curled up in bed. That feels like something that would be very nice. But hey, we're building add-ons today, so maybe tomorrow or something like that. Provide accurate and up-to-date information, including add-on name, which will be Lorem Ipsum, version, which will be 1.0, author, which will be Zuri Klaschka, contact information, which will be my contact information, and trader information on the publisher process if I want to distribute to the EU region, which will be my business details, which, yeah, it might actually be good to do this in a pre-recorded video instead, because, well, of course you can then look up my phone number through this information, and that's perfectly fine. It's a different thing to put my phone number in a random YouTube video. Maybe I can blur my phone number at least through that. So that's nice. Ensure your add-on meets legal and licensing requirements, including attribution. Well, placeholder text is not real, like it's sort of a public domain kind of thing. Nobody holds the copyright on Lorem Ipsum. Copyright, what I just said. Intellectual property rights, what I just said. Share testing credentials with our review team. No credentials needed for this add-on. Easy as that. Make sure the add-on meets our developer brand guidelines, which we'll have a look at later. Ensure that you have read and followed all Adobe guidelines relating to your add-on, including our developer brand guidelines, our monetization guidelines if you are monetizing your add-on, which we are not, and our generative AI guidelines if you are using generative AI, which we are not. Creating a private link. You can choose to create a private link to share your add-on with others or use or test by following the instructions outlined in the section. That's nice, probably something we won't be using too much. Also something that unfortunately, it would be great if I could share a link at the end of this episode. This would be really great, but at the same time, it's not supposed to be the case today. So it is what it is. Not too much to worry about. But yeah, we would go into the add-ons tab, which we do not have today, which I don't have. Sorry, to be very clear, because we are in a live stream. I want to be clear in my wording, which I don't have due to very specific circumstances to my account. If you also have this problem that you do not see this add-ons tab in here, then you might want to contact Adobe in one way or another so that they can look into this. There is at least one circumstance, which is the case for me, because there is a specific flag set in my account, and so with that I'm currently unable to see it. That probably shouldn't be the case for you, so yeah, probably you could already be doing this. I have to wait a little bit. But yeah, it's this add-ons tab which we would go to. Then, or we could also just click manage add-ons, which, by the way, if I click this, then I just get redirected back to the homepage, because you get the gist of it. Then we would see something like this, where we can then create a new add-on. Then we would give it a name. Fair enough. Which are you creating an Adobe build third-party integration. Adobe built third-party integrations will not have access to Adobe's privileged APIs. I assume no. Add-on listing settings. Your add-on container will be created and a settings panel like this will show. Okay, then we have a sort of add-on URL, which we may or may not be able to use for something. All right, Carrie, see you soon. Hopefully enjoy your lunch. And then, yeah, we could hopefully then, yeah, we can create a new private link for that. At that point, upload our package, which we can get within our code base, add the release notes and stuff like that. And then enter add-on details. We need an add-on icon and a name, also not an issue. And then we could create a private link. Perfect. No big issues with that. And then we could even get some insights into the usage of the add-on. Okay, good to know. Next up, creating a public listing. Public add-on distribution. This guide is provided and so on and so on. Preparing for submission. What do we need? Prepare your metadata. Indicates required. Add-on name. Let me just maybe put this over here and put Obsidian over here. And let's just close the sidebar for now. And I'll just create a table here. So field and value. Add-on name can have 25 characters. Lorem Ipsum is not more than 25 characters. Perfect. Summary, 50 characters. Insert placeholder texts. And this is important. I put the S in the end because that way it's clear that this is not my note to myself to insert placeholder text, but instead, you know, and let's maybe use title case for that. I don't. Yeah, I think that looks better. Full description. Insert placeholder text into your text frames. Frames with just the right amount of words. This automatically adjusts the length of the placeholder text automatically gets adjusted to your text node size. Something like that. We can, I can optimize this later. We can still optimize this later. Help URL. URL for your users to get help. I'll probably want to create a new page under products on my website, but yeah, something like that for now. So this will be the help URL, and then there it will be Lorem Ipsum Express or something like that. Something I still have to work on for that, which is kind of a, I have to work on this at the same time because otherwise it's sort of a, it begins to be a loop, so to speak. Support email address. I have no issues sharing that in the stream. Email address, because you can find that everywhere. That would be contact@zuriklaschka.de. Then, trailer information. That will just be obvious then. Nothing I have to do here now. Privacy notice. I mean, it's not required, and really I'm not doing anything in terms of data collection or anything like that with that. Still, I could think about linking to my general privacy policy, which also includes my plugins, but yeah, yeah, something I can still decide on, but I don't necessarily think I need that in here. I'm thinking about legal stuff in my head right now, and you know, you're tuning in here to learn about add-on development. I don't really want to. I mean, I could think out loud here, but you know, I don't think you really came here because you're so interested in legal, like, theory on German legal system stuff. So yeah, let's just leave it at that for now. I don't think I need a EULA for that. Keywords, comma separated, Lorem Ipsum, placeholder, text, and other stuff. I can still think about that. Release notes, initial release. Perfect. And then we need assets. So what do we need there? We need icons. 36 pixels, 64 pixels, 144 pixels. And then we need a screenshot, or one or more. So like 1 to 5 screenshots, apparently, 4 more optional, or 1360 by 800 pixels. Let's just do that with X, it's easier. And we need a publisher logo, 250 by 250. Publisher logo, 250 times 250 pixels. A publisher logo. Now we jump back in the text. Where were we? Down here somewhere. Or maybe not. Here. Okay, perfect. A publisher logo is only required the first time you submit, and if you never created a publisher profile. I'm not sure if it's the same publisher profile as for plugins, so probably I still need that. So yeah, I'll just have that ready. Prepare your add-on package. Yeah, sure. Carefully review our set of guidelines. Submission steps. This set of steps can be followed when you have everything prepared, have diligently reviewed the guidelines, and are ready to submit your add-on for review via the Adobe Express in-app. Yeah, okay, that's something we have to do later again. Let me just look through it if there are any more things I need to keep in mind for that. Create a new listing, enter the listing details. The details, yeah, sure, progress stuff, yeah, summary, full descriptions. That's just the stuff we already noted down just now. Upload screenshots, upload your add-on package. Interesting that that is the last step. Does that also mean that essentially whatever we do in this manifest right here doesn't matter too much? Like, is there some stuff in here that we still need, you know? Like, for example, okay, test ID, is that then also, like, do we have to put the real ID in here? That was the case for XD and UXP in general. Is the name, does that have to match up? We'll have to wait and see. But okay, so be it. Create publisher, yeah, enter the AI usage details. Enter the monetization details. Edit publisher profile, final submission. Sure. Nothing really surprising there. Then let's have a look at the other guidelines. General guidelines. Okay, there are a bunch of more pages to go through, so we still have enough content for today's episode. That's good. Overview. This section provides a set of guides to help you in the distribution stage of your add-on. I mean, really what I would like to figure out, but that's just to keep that in mind, is am I able to, during development, replace this logo right here with my real logo? Like, is this something that comes from in here? Shared, maybe, public zip. Don't think so, right? There isn't like a placeholder. Well, let's maybe see if we can do this in the manifest, because depending on this, I can already create a screenshot, which I would really like to do. Let's see, maybe under SDK references, manifest schema. Yeah, there isn't really anything in terms of icons also in the manifest, right? So ID, identify for the, right, that was that. But, okay, used to uniquely identify for development workflows only. Auto-generate. Name for development workflow only. Okay, so basically the manifest doesn't matter. If I understand this correctly, which is different from UXP, so it's good to know. I'm not sure if I particularly like this, because it also means that right now I can't really add my logo in here from it, what it looks like. I mean, we could maybe be a little bit cheeky in here. How does this get loaded? X icon. Come on. No, I don't want to ask AI whatever that does. Seems to be a new feature. Like, there are places where I don't need AI. Thank you. Maybe if I just put an image in here, we could do something like that. But yeah, we'll have to wait and see. Let's continue reading through this for now. And okay, yeah. No matter where I put the camera right now, we still, you won't be able to see all of it, but that's okay. Introduction, yeah, that's just basically overview text, your listing details, add trader details now. What would happen if I click this? Yeah, I got redirected back to the homepage. That's fine. As I said, that's just an issue for me. It won't be an issue for you, thankfully. Listing metadata. Your listing metadata provides Adobe and users with about your add-on. Sure. Naming your add-on. Consider using a simple name that is easy to spell, but distinctive enough to find using search. I think I've got that covered. The name should give users an idea of what your add-on does. Sure. For example, using a company name may be clear to you, but not to other users. Try to avoid using a long name where possible. No problems there. When listing an add-on, you must not use the word premium to describe your upgrade options, as this should only be used in relation to the Adobe Express Premium plan. Okay. I will be honest with you. In the beginning of this sentence, I thought like, yeah, I would never call something premium. I really hate calling things premium. But yeah, as I continued reading the sentence, you know, I guess it's what Express decided to name stuff. I'm personally really, like, whenever I read premium anywhere, I go out of my way to get around using premium on anything. And apparently I implicitly have Express Premium for my all app subscription. But, okay. So, your add-on description. Let your users know clearly and concisely what your add-on does. Think of this as your elevator pitch. Use this space to concisely describe the functionality and benefits of your add-on, using tone and language which is appropriate to your add-on and your own personal or brand style. I think that's should be okay with this. Yeah. Length of the base. Yeah, it describes what the add-on does. If your add-on generates assets using AI or imports assets from an assets repository, should include, yeah, we don't. Generative AI, we don't. Your summary. Use the summary section to concisely outline the features and functionality of the add-on. Think of this as the tagline of your add-on. Yep. Support email, yeah. Screenshots accurately represent the functionality and appearance of the add-on, such as key features and important user steps. It is essential to refrain from including images that could potentially mislead users or are deemed inappropriate. Yeah, for me, it will really just be a screenshot of the, I mean, I can outline what I want this to look like, and then just hopefully work on this once I'm able to at least add a logo through a private link to there. But yeah, my plan right now would be to have something like this. So this right here, let's make a screenshot of that. And what was the size requirement again? 1360 by 800, 1360 by 800. You can probably even do this in Express, right? New document, 1360 by 800. Okay, so let me just save this screenshot. It's in my downloads folder, that's good. Upload from downloads, please. This thing. I'll just add something like this, add a little bit of a background theme. Like, let's just do this the easy way for now. And I would use other colors in the real thing. And then probably we can just, once again, it's really ugly right now, but you get the gist of it. Maybe let's set the theme to. Can I somehow get this to? Yeah, so that goes about into the direction which I might want to go with, and then insert placeholder texts. The smaller, make it not bold. And then maybe I could even add like some fancy graphics down here, like, some sort of, I don't know if it would be allowed for me to put the developer champions badge in here, but something like that, just some visual element down here, maybe just my logo, stuff like that. But yeah, I'll do that once I'm able to access the account and therefore able to put my correct logo in here. Your icon. Use an original icon that complies with our developer brand guidelines. Consider using a design that illustrates what the add-on does. Your icon should be simple and distinctive and must be suitable for viewing on different devices and browsers. Long story short, if we go to the repository of my original Lorem Ipsum plugin for Adobe XD, back before it was an add-on for Adobe Express, I do have some assets in here, and I also somewhere have the original source files for that. But yeah, I'll just pick the biggest icon. What size does this have? Let's just save this image as something for now. Can I somehow get the information? Would this already? Yeah, no, 192 by 192. What is the biggest thing we need? Yeah, we can just downscale that if we want. If we want to be really lazy, it will just be that icon again. Long story short. So let's continue reading. Help URL. Include a link to a valid web page that provides accurate and relevant information about the add-on's usage and functionality. Okay, so I need to really make this a sub-page, is what they're saying. So let me just make an exclamation mark here, because it means that I have to create a new sub-page on my homepage. Not an issue, but just something to keep in mind. It is recommended to add support for common queries or user issues. Here. Privacy policy license agreement. You must include details of your privacy policy and contractual terms applicable to the use of your add-ons. Do not include text that violates our developer brand guidelines. I'm not sure what the brand guidelines have to do with privacy policy. Well, okay. Keywords. It is recommended to include keywords to categorize your add-on and make it easier to find. Multi-word keywords are allowed, but remember, spaces count towards the overall character limit for keywords. Sure, fair enough. Try to include keywords which reflect the features and purpose of the add-on, which the user is likely to search for. Spell out keywords in full. You must not include any keywords that are abusive and or derogatory. But that also means that I could put in free, open source, and free and open source software. Nice. Okay. Release section. Yeah, release notes. Easy enough for this version. Publisher profile, your publisher name. Zuri Klaschka. Which, by the way, spelled like this. Your description. Use your description to explain a little more about you, including any areas you might specialize in. Fair enough. I'll figure something out. I hate writing these kinds of texts, but I'll figure something out. Zuri Klaschka has been a developer for ages within the Adobe. Yeah, I'll figure something out. Your logo must be original. Yeah, at this point, like I once used a logo and now I can, let me quickly see how I did this over on the distribution panel. If I go to developer.adobe.com/distribute, I don't know if I was still using my logo there or if I'm using my, yeah, I'm still using the logo there, so I'll just use the logo over on the other side as well, because on my website I have since gone back to just using a small profile picture of me, because it, like, you know, it feels like I don't have to, you know, act as if I'm like a big media agency and, you know, I'm me. If you want to hire me, go ahead. If not, because I'm just a single person, then don't. That's fine. That's my take on it. Of course, everyone else can be different. Your website URL. Include a website that people can find out more about you. Yeah, this will just be my URL. This should successfully open your own website. Specifically, according to page 5 of the developer brand guidelines, your domain name must not include any Adobe trademark or product name. Yeah, my domain name doesn't. And where I use some information about Adobe, I am following the guidelines by stating that these things are trademarks by Adobe, so that's fine. Trader details, yeah, I have to submit details. That's perfectly fine. I don't have a DUNS number, but that's optional. That's good. So basically just the same drill as over on the UXP side of things. Content. Okay, I think there it will get a little bit more interesting again. In the interests of user and safety and acceptable standards, add-ons must not contain or generate illegal content. Fair. Contain or generate adult content. Fair. I don't think placeholder text counts as that. Contain or generate hate speech or speech that promotes violence or bullying or cruel behavior to anyone. I'm not doing that. Very much not. Generate content that promotes, automates, or relates to highly regulated activities, such as inserting placeholders, just kidding, such as financial and so on. Contain or generate code that could be malicious, such as viruses, malware, spyware. Kind of self-evident that I wouldn't be allowed to do that. Participate in misinformation or disinformation campaigns. Also not doing that. I mean, I guess there are some parts in the world where my pure existence is considered to be a disinformation campaign, but that's a different story. Violate intellectual property rights, including copyright of other persons and companies. Not doing that. Automatically perform actions determined by AI that would be destructive or that cannot be undone without explicit user consent. Yeah, also not doing that. User interface, your add-ons design. When it comes to design, create a layout that aligns with the functionality of your add-on. Arguably, I have done that. This aligns with the usage of my add-on. However, remember that your users will be accessing your add-on as part of their Adobe Express workflow. So try to make sure that they can move seamlessly without coming across anything jarring or counterintuitive. Hopefully they won't. If they do, they will let me know. Users are very quick to write emails when something isn't working, and you never hear from them when stuff is working, which is how it is supposed to be, but I will know if something does not work, believe me. We highly suggest leverage, and even like just a little anecdotal story, but I feel like it plays into this thing of essentially the end-to-end developer experience. It is super fascinating because also with the Lorem Ipsum plugin for Adobe XD, of course you receive mixed feedback, that's perfectly normal, but some of the emails were very interesting because users were like, this free plugin is not doing exactly what I wanted to do. I gave you a 1-star review. And I'm like, the plugin is free. It says what it does, and it does what it says. So feel free to give it a 1-star review. You do you. But, sometimes users have strange thoughts about what they can expect in a free product. But, it is what it is. Just something that I wanted to include here because if you distribute add-ons and get these emails, don't worry about it. Like, seriously, if your users have to pay $200 per month for your add-on, and you say it does something and it doesn't do that, that's a different story. But you get so much, honestly, just weird feedback where people feel entitled in a way that's, just don't worry about that. That's perfectly normal. I mean, by now Adobe XD is a little bit smaller in terms of popularity, but like in the peak times of it, I received like 2 emails per day with that kind of content, and it was just like, sometimes I just for fun answered them and was like, hey, the plugin does what it says it does. It's a free plugin. Like, essentially, what you're doing good for, like, what is the intention behind it? But otherwise just ignore it. It's part of it, and it's a part you get used to. It is what it is. We highly suggest leveraging the Spectrum design system and the Spectrum Express theme, which we are doing. Perfect. We've included these guidelines and so on and so on. Display items, empty screens. You should avoid including any empty screens, which we did because we included our loading indicator for that. Scroll bars. If your content does not fully fit on a single screen, you should make it clear that the user can scroll to view the remaining content. I mean, it would be kind of a, like if somebody is able to actually work in a window that's so small that we have a scroll bar there, then that's quite an achievement, to be honest. But I think we should probably get a scroll bar if that happens. Yeah, we have a scroll bar in that case. So, yeah. Perfect. Works. No issues there. Buttons. All add-on buttons should be displayed correctly and not overlap with each other. We only have one button. It gets displayed correctly. Then... Kamalakas. True. Kamalakas just wrote in the YouTube chat for those watching in Ring Central that when they say it doesn't work and you ask what exactly isn't working, they disappear. Also had that many times, but yeah. It's just part of the experience. Truthfully, in an anonymized way, because otherwise it would create problems with privacy and so on. But in an anonymous way, I do share a messaging group with 2 or 3 other developers where a best of these kinds of messages may or may not get sent to each other. Just to have a good laugh about it. All right, changing between languages. The user interface should still be clear and navigable when the user switches between languages. They should also be able to input special characters or alphabets from other languages. Yeah, sounds good. I mean, we only support English for now, so No issues there, hopefully. Modal dialog. Avoid using dialog boxes that interrupt the user's workflow except in important situations. For example, use the in-panel UI to display things like success messages rather than a dialog box. We did that. Icons. Use unique icons to represent the add-on itself and the features within it. We're doing that. We only have one icon for one feature, so perfect. Using Adobe icons and phrasing, not doing that. Referring to add-ons, it's add-on. Okay. Referring to Adobe Express, it's Adobe Express. Okay. Also not doing that. Using Adobe icons. Sure, we could, but we're not. Referring to stock photos. We are not. Localization. All add-ons must provide support for the English language. We do. In addition, you are welcome to create your add-on in any supported language. We could, but we're not yet. Functionality for multilingual UI. You must test your add-on to make sure that the user interface remains intact and functional when you switch between any supported languages. Sure. Text display. Ensure that changing the language does not result in add-on strings. Yeah, not happening. Branding your add-ons for monetization. We are not monetizing this, so we can skip. Performance. Yeah, have good performance. We do. Usability. Blending with Adobe Express UI. Arguably, we did all we could and more in terms of that, because we also set another background color here so that it really seamlessly blends into there. So yeah, I think we're doing that. Responsive interface. You make sure that your add-ons user interface and controls are responsive, functional, and usable across different browsers and screen sizes. Yeah, I mean, I can't resize the add-ons panel in Adobe Express, so, you know, okay, I guess at that point it breaks, but at that point Express in general breaks. So that's not really my add-on doing stuff. That's the Express interface, I think, overall, right? Because even the Express interface, if I see this correctly, yeah, it still says it has like 320 pixels of width there. So with that, from the viewpoint of my add-on, we are still at 320 pixels, so I do everything I can to be responsive. User inputs must provide some sort of response or validation. We do. Error messages should be clear, informative, and helpful to the user. Okay, let's maybe quickly change the one error message that isn't yet, which was here, failed to load preferences. Using default preferences instead. Something like that. That should be more useful. Modal dialogues. We're not using many modal dialogues. Security. Malicious code. We don't have. User information. We do not submit or transmit any sensitive user information. Vulnerabilities. Not that I'm aware of, maybe in some like deep dependencies, but nothing that affects Express in any sort of way or does anything of that. Secure coding, yeah, secure coding practices. I would argue we have done this. Of course, there's always more stuff you can do in terms of that, but really this is a non-critical add-on, and at least, you know, I've been a professional developer for more than 10 years at this point. This follows industry practices and is even a bit better than industry practices in many ways. So I would argue that works. Features. Stability. It should be stable. It is. Storing user data. Your add-on should only store necessary information on the user's machine. I would argue that that's something we do. Must be able to handle any errors that arise from exceeding storage quotas. Okay. I mean, I guess let's just do some error handling in here. Not really much we can do in that case, but sure. Oh, I mean, let's do this a little bit nicer. dot catch on error and I mean we don't really have any useful information in here, so yeah, let's just keep it at that. And then for loading it in our initialization, get item dot catch. It will still be undefined then, but at least we can something like that. Hopefully that should cover it. Loading indicators. When loading takes a noticeable amount of time, a loading indicator should be displayed to provide visual feedback. We do that. If an operation takes a considerable amount of time and blocks the use of your add-on or Adobe Express, the add-on should provide an affordance that allows the user to cancel the operation. Sure, but not really the case for us. Generating renditions. Where the add-on generates renditions of user content, it must provide some sort of progress indicator. We are not doing that. Text boxes. Any text boxes must support English characters. Sure. Importing images and videos. Not doing that. Drag and drop. Not doing that. Single click to add. Any add-on where content can be added to a document should also support the option to add an image with a single click. This means that users can click on the desired location to integrate an image. Let me reread that. Any add-on where content can be added to a document, which I would argue is the case for us, should also support the option to add an image with a single click. Why should I want to add an image? I mean, even like if I reinterpret this to not just be image, I'm not exactly understanding what it's trying to say. Like even if we rephrase this to text, should also support the option to add a text with a single click. I mean, we're doing that, I guess. This means that users can click on the desired location to integrate the text. On the desired location to integrate the text. But how should that work? If I now click here, I'll just ignore that because I feel like it probably doesn't apply to the add-on, even though the way I read it, it applies. So, hey, if somebody from Adobe is watching, that might be a place where we can clean up the documentation a little bit. But apart from that, yeah, let's just ignore that for now. Support for both options above, sure, it's just the same. Navigation must be able without feeling stuck, sure. Online, offline, online, if the users, yeah, we're just doing native stuff, so to speak. So let's just get through the other stuff. We are not authenticating any users. Accessibility, we should meet accessibility standards. So most of these should be covered by React Spectrum, and we can't really do anything if they're not. All text, we don't have any images, so that's not an issue. Contrast and fonts depends on the theme. Readability, I would say that should be again, just something on the Adobe's React Spectrum side of things. So yeah, compatibility, conflicts, your add-on must not conflict with any installed add-ons in Adobe Express. Sure, so with that we probably shouldn't be using pure local storage, so to speak. Different system and browsers, your add-on, yeah, sure, we should test it in different systems. I'll do that after the stream because really that would be super boring at the moment because you would just watch me go through two-factor authentication for my Adobe account on 3 different browsers. That's not really fun content for this. And yeah, you can just imagine what happens there. So yeah, let's leave that for after the stream. Testing for edge cases. I've tested all the edge cases. I think, I can select things that aren't text and it says I should select text. We have tested if with rotated text that worked. So I think we have tested edge cases. that should work. Developer brand guidelines. I mean, we could look at these as well, but unless they have changed, which they haven't, I'm familiar with them. Just look them up yourself if you need to. Monetization, we're not doing. Generative AI, we're not using. So with that, really, my next steps would be, or I mean, I can still do the steps I need to do here. So let me commit this code. Feature, what did we do today? Better state management. Add better state management, storing user preferences in storage, comma, and also providing a better UX on intermediate add-on states, initial load, and inserting text. Okay, so we did that. Let's see. Do I want to change anything in here before I mean, that's fine if that's just for development. That should work. Express version 1, sure. We can leave that at panel, that's fine. I mean, really, I don't necessarily need pop-ups. I would imagine that I don't need any of them, right? So let's just see what would happen if I were to rebuild everything in here and just reload it over here. Does failed to execute post message. Okay, I don't know what that was just now. But it might, yeah, okay, it was just because we killed the development server, I think, so that's fine. Okay, so that works. If I now were to change anything over here, let's remove that. Okay, apparently we need these permissions. Not entirely sure for what, but let's see what we need. Allow downloads. Does it work if I allow downloads? No. Does it work if I allow presentation? No. Does it load? No. Does it load? No. Okay. What's going on here? Let's see. If I now refresh this and maybe rebuild this again. It works. And if I change something, does it still work now? It does not. Failed to execute post message. Port is already. Okay, let's just reload it. Maybe it's just an intermediate bug, so to speak. Add-on testing. And I know we're almost at time, but want to make sure that stuff is still working. So we're in here, and if I now change something, okay, it works again. It still set this whole thing in motion, but it's working again, I think. Yeah, okay. So now if I remove all of these again, would it stop working again? Is the question. So let's rebuild. Do a hard reload over here. Add-on testing. Open the add-on. Do a change in the code. That works. That works. Okay, so I think it was just an intermediate sort of thing. So let's just keep these permissions out of it. Fix, remove unnecessary permissions from manifest. Push that over to GitHub again. And then let's do the following. npm run build. That's step number 1. And npm run zip. That's step number 2. And now somewhere in here we have a zip file. Where is it? Ipsum under zip. Okay, we have this sort of thing. Okay, we should probably still change the version of it. So version comes from the package JSON. So let's just make this version 1.0 and do the same thing again, basically. See if that works. Yeah, we have 1.0.0. Perfect. And so with that, hopefully, this should basically be it, and we can say this is version 1.0.0, which we can also tag, git tag. What was it again? Because I want to have an annotated tag and not git tag version. No, there was like, I think it was -a. Yeah, -a. Okay. Git tag -a version 1.0.0. Version 1.0.0. Yes. Git push and git push tags. Hey, we have released our first version, so to speak. Still need to upload it to the marketplace, of course, but I think that's pretty much it. So yeah, let's do a small recap. And after that, since we're already at time, that will also be it. So yeah, we just actually finished all of the stuff that I can see that we need to do in the code. We have the zip file with which we can then hopefully one way or another work within the interface of Adobe Spectrum once I can do that. As I said, there will be another video or something like that where I show this as soon as this is possible for me, as soon as some weird flag for my Adobe account got cleared up. And yeah, then within the span of 4 sessions, we basically did everything we needed to build an add-on for Adobe Express and port our UXP plugin. You can find the code for all of this. I can show that out again here under github.com/pklaschka. So that's Papa Kilo Lima Alpha Sierra Charlie Hotel Kilo Alpha, and then Lorem Ipsum add-on. And I will clean up that repo later. But yeah, as you can see, we have our version 1.0 here. It's also currently doing the release thing. So let's sorry, I didn't share my screen just now, but yeah, you can see it here. So pklaschka/lorem ipsum add-on, and you can just omit this part. As you can see, currently creates a GitHub release. So let's see. Yeah, we have our GitHub release, which includes our zip file, which you can now download and I guess work with it. So yeah, I thank you very much for joining me on this series. As I said in the beginning, we will have a sort of lessons learned recap session, probably not next week, but a little bit after that, because I want to gather my thoughts around, hey, what did we do and what are the lessons learned from that, so that we can keep that somewhat concise. And yeah, of course, I would love to see you there again. But for now, this pretty much concludes this series of live streams. If you've made it this far, I thank you so much for watching. My name is Zuri Klaschka. Have fun developing add-ons, because as you saw here, it's really not that difficult. Yeah, let me think if I forgot anything. I don't think so. So yeah, once again, thank you so much for watching. I'll give you another few seconds of CAD-CAM content, and after that, this stream is over. Thank you so much.